seconds of silence. Devon can start the stream, and then we'll start it up.
Welcome to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins, and let's drop in.
Welcome, freelancers, to a very special episode. I always say they're very special because I think every episode is special in its own way. This is very special episode 85 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Did you guys know that we're the longest running podcast? Not the longest running podcast. I always do that.
Podcast.
Yeah, you know, we're the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet, trying to make all the people happy.
So we are the longest running Anthem podcast. So like if anyone would ever put on like a big giant show where Anthem was your focus and you needed someone that did like an Anthem podcast to kind of like be, you could just call us because we've been doing it for a really long time. This is episode 85. That means we have been at this for, man, it feels like a really long time. We're actually coming up on 2 years. When we head off to EA Play, it'll be around the 2-year mark that we actually decided that, hey, we're going to do a show. We're going to talk about Anthem. We're going to talk about it through its highs, through its lows, and we're just going to keep talking about the game because, at its core, the four of us, really enjoy the game. So I am your host, Steve. I don't know if I said that. You guys probably know that. I'm here with 2 of my co-hosts. Mike cannot be here today because they have a weird tournament organizer that decided that no matter what weather the boys are having, they're going to play soccer in that weather. So I think there's a bunch of lightning, thunder. I think there's a tornado going on where they're having this tournament. But tournament organizer said, hey, if the kids can dodge, if they can dodge a tornado, they can dodge a ball. I don't know, something like that. So he's not with us tonight. He's off having fun. So we wish his son a good tournament, I guess. So I'm here with Devon and JD. Man, I can't talk. I almost called you Jevon.
Jevon.
Have you here? And I guess you'd be Dee JD, if I got that.
Jevon and Dee.
Jevon and Dee. Or Dee.
There you go. I won't call you that. So we're super excited to have everyone with us today. We're probably going to take a couple calls from some listeners that are hanging out in our Discord. We've got a lot to talk about. If you want to leave us a voice message for the show, and if you want to add some feedback, comments, if you have questions, you can call in. You can leave a voicemail message at 505-386-7917. So that's a place you could do that. Or you could email us at freelancercodex@gmail.com. All right. So I have been gone for the last week. I was at a training. We were learning all about communication and community management and doing all kinds of fun stuff like that, learning about vision and focus on, how to develop things. So I have been away from the game. I did get a chance to play yesterday, and I got to play today. So I've been having a lot of fun trying out one of the new patches because we got a new patch. I think it is patch 1.1.0.1 or something like that. I think there was a mix up with how they numbered it, but it was a pretty light patch. So Devon, what fixes did they give us in this recent patch that we got on? I think it was on Tuesday.
Well, let me read the list here. So, for me, it is good to be back also since I was gone last week. So,
you were gone? I didn't even realize you were gone.
I know that cut me deep, Steven. That's rude.
It just felt like you were there in spirit. Like, man, I don't think we've done one where you haven't been here. So
I missed you, Devon.
All right. So obviously the Elysian Matt Damon chests are over now. So that was when that update came out. It put the kibosh on that. But what they have here for us, it says they fixed an error where weapon and component stats values were not displaying correctly. So we saw that quite a bit, where your stats would drastically change. Even though we saw that ourselves after the last big patch they had, and it was pretty interesting. So
it was pretty confusing, I think, is what it actually was, because we had weapons that were like, this says it's like doing 10 and our damage is doing 7 for crits. I don't understand. I still don't understand it. Could have left it the same way and I still would have know much about the numbers and the damage that we're doing anyway. But
One
What's
day.
next?
It's a slow step-by-step process.
That's true.
So it says it fixed a problem where suit power level rarity was not correctly being calculated based on equipped items. So if you would log in and you look at your friends list and everybody was the legendary javelin, that was a lie. You know, the javelin is a lie. So
The javelin is alive.
but yeah, no, I mean it was definitely crazy. You log in, like people are like in the 400s, and I'm like, what the heck? What? That's not right. So, but they fixed that. So, they also says fixed an issue with Spanish audio in a conversation in the Sunken Cell Stronghold. So that's pretty good. Fixed an issue with French audio in the conversation in the Sunken Cell Stronghold. Fixed an issue causing a slight delay in salvaging at end of the expedition, which was good because we definitely noticed that.
Yeah, this one was something that was super frustrating. I think you go from when you have something pretty good to where they sped it up and it goes back to the way it was. It's like really kind of
Yeah,
it kind of sticks that fry right up your nose, and it makes it really frustrating. So.
takes a little bit longer. So let's see here. Partially defeated encounters will no longer redispense loot from previously defeated creatures. I never had that happen. Yeah,
I didn't either. Maybe it's a console thing. I don't know. Maybe if you've had this happen and you were able to benefit from it, next time just like shoot us a text so we know, so we can go farm this loot over and over.
Farm it over and over. The last one here we got is for PC only. Just right clicking on an item to salvage it at the end of the expedition screen now requires the mouse button to be held. So you don't just accidentally click it. Oh, I salvaged that. Didn't want to do that. That would kind of suck. But
yeah, this is something I also have not run into. Like, I use a controller when I play on PC, so it's something that hasn't happened to me. And we also have a bunch. So these are the fixes that came out. There were a couple other issues that popped up when they pushed this fix. So, one of the things that they also fixed, that values were not on gear were not displaying correctly either. I know they were saying that. Well, the inscriptions weren't displaying correctly. We know that the damage numbers and all that stuff was incorrect, but inscription numbers were incorrect also. So I think I got a legend. I didn't get a legendary. I got a masterwork Thunderbolt of Yavinia, and that thing dropped with 1% damage. So after the fix, I think it updated to 20%, unless it was a different one. I don't know. It's so hard to pinpoint and figure out what has been fixed and what hasn't been fixed, just because of the way everything has been going. It's also I don't even care. I don't know if I'm ever going to get another one. So whatever I have is what I have. All right. So known issues that they are still working on. So these are things that the team is aware of that they're going to continue to work on. And this list is updated as of today. So these are the things that they're still going for. So some challenges still aren't tracking properly, such as Legendary Freelancer. So you're not getting your rep, and it's taking a lot longer to reach that milestone that you're able to complete it at. So hopefully they will get that fixed soon, and we won't have to worry about that. So weapons sometimes not firing where they are aimed. And I know Rusted, one of our community members in our Discord, has been having this problem a lot. I think we've whittled it down to maybe being an overlay issue, whether it's an overlay with Origin or if it's an overlay with NVIDIA stuff. So hopefully they can get that fixed, because it's really frustrated that, if we can't even shoot at something in it and those hits be registered. So hopefully that's something that they'll be able to figure out very soon. Also, can't talk to NPCs who have speech bubbles above their heads in the fort. So this has happened to me several times also. It seems pretty random when it does happen. So I was never able to figure out, why is it happening now compared to why it's not happening in this instance. I don't know if that's something that you guys have run into also, JD.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I saw I see speech bubbles above people's heads in Fort Tarsus, I get really excited, because kind of like Mike was saying, or maybe it was you who was saying it a couple weeks ago, after you're done talking to everybody, the fort feels kind of quiet and empty, and you kind of end up missing those conversations. So I saw it, I was like, oh, there's somebody to talk to. And then I get there and then there's nothing. I'm just so disappointed for a moment. I'm like, oh, I guess not. But the map says you do. Why? What's happening here?
It's kind of frustrating, because I enjoy the conversations at the fort. for the most part, and I wish that there were more of them. After the Sunken Cell dropped, we had a lot with Sev. Those were kind of interesting conversations that we had with Sev. He seemed like he broke a lot of rules, but Tassin was okay with it, which is kind of weird. I thought Tassin was, a stickler for the rules. Apparently, she doesn't care that much about what rules are broken and what rules aren't broken. I mean, I had a spy that I had murdered because he broke the rule, but I don't know. Sev, I guess, gets a pass just because he's Sev for
Yeah.
whatever reason. Whatever, apples and oranges, I suppose. All right, so they also fixed a they're working on a fix for the auto res after a boss is defeated is not always working. I never die during boss fights, so I have not run into this. Devin, you die a lot. Have you run into this where it's just keep you down when you're dead?
I don't die.
Oh.
I don't die. I think you're mistaken. That doesn't happen to me unless I get the health bug. That's the proper excuse to use when you die. Obviously, it wasn't because of my skill level, because it's up here.
Either a health bug or the Minotaur respawned. I think that those are the only viable excuses.
It's tough. So, no, that hasn't happened to me where I've been stuck there. I know a lot of people have, but that hasn't happened to me.
So health bars randomly disappearing from the final boss in the Sunken Cell. You can't choose Stronghold mission again from end of expedition screen after completing one. That is one that I've had frequently every time. The armor issue, this is an old friend that we have seen since the beginning of time, it feels like, both in display and in actual implementation, that our armor issues have not been fixed yet. And I seem like, in my mind, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer, never programmed. Well, I programmed a calculator once, to say a funny word. But it seems like a lot of the issues that we have with like armor issues, weapons, and things not displaying, like in my gut, I feel like it's all tied to the scaling system that they have. That like, to me, that's the only reason why these things would be changing, is because they have to scale the game. If you want to play with someone that's level 2, or you want to play with someone that's level 30, in order for them to feel like they're actually doing work in that instance, it has to be scaled to them and scaled for you. So it feels like to me that like there's some weird issue going on with the scaling on the back end.
Yeah.
And because now that the devs have the PTR, I'm assuming that they have the PTR up and running and they're testing a lot of these things. I don't know if they're testing new builds on the PTR and those are getting pushed and things just aren't being updated in the correct path to where everyone is on the same version of the game before it gets submitted for patching. I don't know what's going on there. It seems like anytime the patch gets pushed out, more things get broken. For example, one thing that happened when they pushed out this patch is that the Titan in the Heart of Rage stronghold stopped dropping its loot. And this, when you're in a state of a lot of things not working, things like this get pointed out pretty quickly, because this is the Heart of Rage is used to farm loot. I mean, it's the quickest stronghold that you can do. You have a lot of instances where you have apex creatures, and the Titan is one of them. So when the Titans stopped dropping loot, that caught fire pretty quick on Reddit, and it spread, and a lot of people were upset. And it took them how many days was it, JD? I'm in my mind, I'm thinking it was about 3 days, because they fixed it.
3
the
to 4,
patch,
I think.
it's a hot fix that they're pushing out today to everyone. That it should be fixed by now. So it took them this long to figure out what happened there and get that fixed. And now that kind of stuff happens, whatever, that's not the big deal. But then whenever something like this happens and they take a little bit of time to fix it, they always players always point back to one thing. When the loot was raining like crazy, it took them 11 hours to fix it, right? They had a fix super fast. So it's always the thought or the perception that, okay, you don't care when something's broken because it takes you longer, but when loot starts raining, you fix it as quickly as you can. You guys get that sense? I mean, we've all seen it. We saw it in Destiny with the loot cave. They fixed that fairly quickly after people caught on and they found it. It was raining loot after each patch here, and they fixed that super fast. But then when you have loot dropping, a potential chance to get something good from the Titan, it takes them several days to fix that. Do you guys feel cheated out by this? I mean, I know a lot of people, anytime something like this happens, they're like, hey, you owe us 4,000 coins or whatever. So, I mean, what do you guys what do you guys feel about that situation, on whether it's just, it's fair, or they're just taking their time, or whatever?
So for me, I honestly, I prefer that it gets fixed when it's fixed. Honestly, I know that like there are different systems. I'm no game developer. Okay, the only amount of coding that I know how to do is to make a website, and that's about it. I have no idea how complicated it is, and the whole thing is that, to be fair, like, I mean, now that they've shifted, now that they've kind of like shifted it primarily over to the Austin team, like, well, things that was shortly after launch, that we had like the loot raining and that sort of thing. I feel like there might have been a bigger team working on it because it was closer to launch than it is now. It could be a smaller group, and that could explain it. That being said, I do have a hard time arguing with those who bring up the point that the reason, like a potential reason why they might have, wanted to put the kibosh on that, raining loot was to kind of keep people from, hitting the wall as fast that a lot of people have hit, like to make the lack of end game content feel not as lacking, because it would take you longer to get there if it was harder to get loot. I know a lot of people that have been playing the game for, a couple hundred hours more than I have, and now have like one or two completely legendary javelins, have raised this point, and it's generally been this thing of, now that I have a legendary javelin, I mean, what now? And I believe even William, from your Anthem, made this point about how there's just like no aspirational content. So I can see why people might be saying, like, there's definitely a somewhat good reason for them to believe that it's pretty, like, they really have a motivation to fix raining loot faster. But I think it might just be an issue of a smaller team now, working on it and maintaining things, because I don't know how, like, if the numbers have changed at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Devin, how do you feel about something like this?
So I think it's easy to say those kind of things, right? So when life's not going the way we want it to, it's easy to say, "Oh, you're doing this on purpose." Or, I mean, I think we've all seen this cycle before with other games. I've been prey to this cycle myself. Well, they're just holding it back on us and this and things, and it's easy to do that when you're upset or you're bitter about something, and but the truth is, we don't know how. I mean, we're not the developers. We're not the ones working on the game, so we don't know how complex of an issue it is. Jesse was very open about it this week while they were going over those things. He was on Twitter, saying, "Hey, okay, we're working on things. We're trying to make sure it's a quality fix to make sure we get this." But then people were responding saying, "Yeah, there's no loot dropping from like Ursix and other things in the wild." So they're like, "What?" And so they have to look into that. And I mean, we don't know how complex the loot drop rate versus, not dropping from specific Apex enemies, how complex that is. And there's a lot of things that go into it, and there's a lot of issues, I really don't know an easy answer for them besides all we can do is just trust the developers. They're the ones making it, and they're not trying to purposely screw us over. They're not trying to break the game. Every update they're doing, with the public test environment is whenever that fully comes out to where more people can get into it and whatnot. I haven't heard anything about it. Did you guys hear anything about that last week when I was gone?
No, I didn't hear anything.
But I do think, as time goes on, some of these updates, once they get that up and running, will be, when you put the updates in that test environment, it's going to take longer because you have to put them in the environment, then they have to run through it all, and then find more fixes. In the long run, it'll be more beneficial for sure, but it might take longer to update and patch things if they're pushing it out to that first and then to everybody else. So,
Yeah, and I also think, if you do have a PTR up and running, at least you're showing that you're working on things, and those things are going to get out. So people that don't have access to it, console players, they're still going to be able to see, and they're going to be able to hear the feedback from players that are actually able to use it. So I think there will be a little bit of a buffer between the, hey, we want this now, because at least we'll be able to see that, okay, this is being worked on, this is being talked about, these are the fixes that they're going to put into place. So hopefully that is going to give them a little bit of room to say, hey, we need a little bit more time with this. This is a bug that these players found. So we need more time to, before we implement it. So hopefully that happens, because we haven't heard when they're going to release that yet. I'm guessing it's going to be sometime after EA Play. I don't think it's close to being ready, or else we would have started hearing about that. So hopefully people will cut the developers that amount of slack, because like you said, Devon, they're trying their best. They're
Yeah.
working on it. They don't set out to make a crappy game. So hopefully Go ahead,
I do feel that there's a point worth making here, is that they definitely don't set out to make any kind of inferior game. I mean, I don't know of a lot of people with any amount of pride in their craft that would set out to make something terrible.
Yeah.
I do think a fair point that some other people raise, and I've seen the point raised, is that one of the things that they have been very transparent about is their goal is to keep people playing the game as long as possible. Like that is like the whole point of a lot of the systems that are in there and the way they're structured the way they are. So like I don't think they would make things perfect, well, like purposely, like terrible, but I do think that the potential argument that uh, they might be doing certain things to kind of keep people like from running out of things to do faster is a potentially viable one. It's not one that I choose to believe, but I do think it does have some merit based on the fact that we do know that one of their goals is to make a game that you keep coming back to.
Yep.
and I think, like, man, anytime because I understand that that there is that draw, like, hey, how do we slow down progress? And I hate it when people say, like, oh, they want you to stop. If you get the loot, you're going to stop playing. Because in my mind, it's like, no, I'm just going to keep going for more loot, because the inscriptions can always be better, right? So, and currently, BioWare has an opportunity to increase some loot drops so we can actually make that happen. And I think they're afraid to. I think they have that fear that if we were getting legendaries, we would stop. But in my mind, and I'm not a developer, I'm just someone that wants to play the game, I would play more if I knew there were more chances to get legendaries. That would make me, be able to take my build to that next level, to feel like, okay, I can just roll through Grandmaster 3. Because right now, Grandmaster 3 just takes way too long because all my inscriptions are all over the place. But if I had a place where I could get loot, I would play those missions and those activities more frequently. And because there's no guarantee anywhere of getting that stuff, it's like, well, I could do any of these things and it might drop, it might not. I can do the hardest content and it won't drop. So that fear, I think, that BioWare has really frustrates me. And I think they just need to stop being afraid that their player base is going to leave, because you know what? It can only bring them back at this point, is my
I mean, the ones that are still here, like the ones in our Discord and the ones on Low Sodium, Anthem, and all that, like, we're here because we love the game. We keep playing because we love the game. There's, like, if you can make things potentially better for us, like, yeah, like Steve was saying, like, it might bring people back, you know?
But so one thing that Mike wanted us to talk about, and then after this, I think we're going to try and bring in a couple people from our Discord to, if they have questions or if they have comments, anything that they want to ask, we will bring them in. So Mike wanted us to talk about Matt Damon chests. They are gone now. So if you were to bring them back, Devon, next week, like, what changes would you personally implement in the Matt Damon chest? How would you bring them back?
Well, the easiest and most obvious for me is to get rid of all the fluff, which was all the materials. Um, right now, there's no crafting system or reason to even worry about those materials except for consumables, And even then, that's not not very much. So, just like when you would go through there, and I've had times where it was like all four of the chests were just materials, and it's like, oh well, that sucks really bad.
That's a waste of.
Yeah, and so it's like get rid of the fluff. I mean, it makes it much more enjoyable. I'd still rather play it and still get keys and still open it, even if I have all of them or whatever. I'd still open them for other people, knowing that it was just uh, items, not materials or any of the fluff, because it's just more rewarding and worthwhile to me. I'd actually focus on playing that. But when you get the 3 and 4 materials multiple times, it killed the desire and urge for me to keep doing that, because it just wasn't enjoyable to go through the stronghold and be like, oh, all right, I'm gonna get these chests, and then it was just poop.
So here's a question. So there's a lot of people. I know several people that got everything that they could out of the chest. They got them 100%. I think Phaedron actually went through and he got everything. So what do you do with all those things that were offered in this chest? Do you bring those items back for the next chest reset and potentially give those people that went through that grind, now they have less things to go for, or do you have to make completely new items that no one has seen before?
I think it has to be all new, right? Because these are limited time items, and people have already gone through the grind to get that. So if you screw over the dedicated players, I mean, it's a hard place to be. Like putting those back in and basically creating a smaller pool. I mean, maybe they don't care. Maybe it's like, okay, well, that just means I have less things that I have to get, and they're already completed. So I don't have to work towards it as much. But um, is if they only did, non-material items, like skins and everything else in there, would you feel cheated? I don't know. I'd feel a little upset at first, but then maybe I'd be like, well, that just means, I have a lower number to work towards to complete everything.
I feel like coin rewards. I didn't get enough Elysian chests to know if this is a reward in them, but like awarding coin would have been more useful than awarding materials, especially. I think that would have helped to address some of the complaints about like how the grind for coins isn't exactly great right now. Um, but
Yeah, because
yeah,
there were no coins, there were no shards in the chest, and
It's
that
a
was something
slow
that
grind.
you easily put in there to help
yeah.
buy new cosmetics that were coming out. And like I was thinking along the lines of William from the chat, you could put those items into the store, but that also doesn't feel great because now you're charging people to get those items.
You know
So
what could be a better idea in this case is you put them in the store. But what you also add to the Elysian chest, again, I bring them up a lot. I'm going to bring it up now. Take a page from Warframe's book. Okay, uh, make one of the rewards in Elysian chests uh, discount coupons. Okay, like maybe like a 5%, 10%, 25%, 50% discount. It encourages people to make purchases. It gives other people a less amount to pay, and it's something nice. Like Warframe offers them as login bonuses, as potential rewards. Like it's just a little thing that it's like not something that necessarily pads it out, but it like when you get it, you like if you're kind of leaning towards maybe getting that armor set or maybe not getting that armor set, and then all of a sudden you get like a 25% discount ticket from an Elysian chest, you're going to be like, oh, this is a sign. I'm going to take it. I'm going to buy that armor set right now. Like if they could throw that in the Elysian chest, like I feel like that would you put all the old stuff in the store and then give people discount tickets in the Elysian chest, and I feel like you'll you'll be able to get away with that and not make people too angry. It allows people to get it if they missed out on if you have lives and you missed out on the majority of the grind, you can get it. It's up to you if you want to pay full price for it or if you want to uh, get it. And you know, again, take it from Warframe. Make the discount tickets that you earn only last like a couple of days. So it's either use it or lose it.
Yeah.
There's also an option of, you know what, you can just have these things drop from bosses after the Elysian chests are gone, right? You can put whatever the teal item was, call them an artifact, because I think there's even a load screen that says you can collect loot and artifacts when you're out, fighting the mans and shooting the bugs. You can collect artifacts. So consider like Elite Matt Damon chest. This was season one, all right. So this was season one. Season one's gone. Season two is going to come up. Everything from season one that you didn't get is going to go to the loot pool for the bosses and strongholds or whatever. So you still have a chance of getting those, especially for the completionist. Like in the long run, if you want to end up with everything, there's still a potential to get that.
Mm.
Eventually, that pool will grow very large. But then, you know what? Season two Matt Damon chests, you can focus on those and you can get those at your pace. And eventually, those will rotate back also. That way, you're not having to pay for it. You're not feeling cheated like you've missed out. You still have the potential to get them, but they're not the focus of the Matt Damon chest come season two.
Yeah.
I think that might be another potential option to get all that stuff, or you just throw them away and say, "Sorry, you didn't grind for it. You're not going to get these decals." And there was some really cool, what emotes that the arrival emotes, like the breakdance emote for the interceptor. I didn't get that. I mean, that's one of the cooler things that were in the Matt Damon chest, but now it's just like, well, I guess I didn't get it. I didn't grind for it. That's my fault. But you know what? I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the desire after, a little
I
bit after getting materials so many times.
I don't see it as a problem if they put them in the store. I mean, obviously the store needs to be reworked completely. We all know that, but they know that. Hopefully, they know that. I'm pretty sure they do. But in order to put all that stuff back in there, I'm of the same mind where it's not a bad thing to put that in there because they gave you ample time to earn them if you wanted to. But if you didn't, then you can buy them. But I think it would be an easier pill to swallow if it was only vanity items in those chests and not like, okay, I'm playing this stuff and I'm getting fluff items most of the time that I don't need. I'm getting materials and weapon parts and storm parts and colossus parts that I don't need, don't care about, and but then they're like, oh, you didn't get all these things because there was 167, but only 62 of them were actual vanity items. But now we're gonna put them in the store. So I mean, I could see how that can leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. It's like when you have a higher percentage of fluff items and you do vanity items in those chests, and then if you put them in the store, that would be I could see that being negative, right? But
Yeah. My math isn't great, but that math doesn't seem on the side of the player.
no, it does not. So, but I just they definitely need to the next time they implement that, not put those materials in there, because there's no reason to have them right now. Right now, it's just a basic way of time gating or slowing down progress, as JD has talked about, and as we've seen in other games, where it's like, okay, in order to prolong this, we're going to throw in fluff items instead of just saying, well, you know what, we're going to put it at 62 items, and here's what's in the chest, and you can get those. And once you've got those, then it's done. Because then it's not like, oh, I have to play, all these rounds over and over and over again, hoping people have a key to give me, or I need to connect with all of my buddies each time they go. And so I don't know. There's stuff to work on for sure.
It's true, and I hope, because I think the idea of the Matt Damon chest is really cool. You get a cool decal. You could get something specific for the stronghold that you go into. You can get some sweet cosmetics, something that maybe looks like you're a swarm tyrant. You've got legs coming out of the back, like you've got the Spider-Man Iron Spider suit. Something like that would be super cool. That was the only place that you could get this cosmetic was by going here. And then you'd be like, oh, you got that. That's super cool. That's one of the cool things. You can look like this giant fury. So the idea is there. They've already found out the way to implement it. Now we just need to refine it. And maybe they just didn't have time to do it the way they wanted to. I mean, that's obviously the case, right? They didn't have the time. They put out what they could. They didn't want people to burn through it as quickly. So they added all this fluff stuff. That was a bad decision. Whoever made that decision, they thought that maybe they were doing it, the best that they could. it obviously didn't work, and I hope that they learn from it and then they can move forward and change something. So
Next time you see Ben's like, oh, bad decision, huh? I see. I'm not just kidding. I don't know.
yeah,
We don't know who made the decision,
hey,
but
like whoever it is, like you have to be able to own up to that, right? You have to be able to say, yeah, I made a bad decision. The player base didn't like what I did. I
Yep.
mean, you could take that really personal, which would be a really hard thing to do in today's industry. I mean, there's people that hate everything no matter what. So if you take that personally, you're going to have a really hard time, making those decisions. And I can see some people not wanting to make a decision because they're afraid of the blowback that you're going to get from it, you know. But you have to make a decision. Someone did. It didn't work out very well. Now you have a chance to learn from it. And I think that's what we need to understand is that these are great opportunities to learn what your player base wants because it's going to be different in every game. The Anthem community is pretty vocal. It's becoming less vocal because a lot of people are moving on to other things. So it's time to like say, okay, listen to your players, increase some loot drops, and do everything that we want you to do. And that's it. And that's all you have to do to bring everyone
just
back.
do everything we want you to do.
So real quick, we got an email from Tater. Tater wanted us to talk a little bit about the communication that we've been having. I think we talked a lot about this last week, but just briefly, Tater really was pointing towards what 343 is doing right now. 343 is not porting Master Chief Collection over to PC. I think another studio is, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's studios that are working with them, Splash Damage, and others are working. There's a team within 343 that is working on that, but the vast majority of them are working on Halo Infinite. But
yeah. Right. And that's what I mean. There was another studio that's helping out with the port,
Mhm.
and they're putting out a lot of videos. They're not doing live streams. They're just putting out quick videos, telling them, like, hey, these are the things that we've been working on recently. These are the things that we're pointing towards. So they're putting out this type of communication that we have also said in the past that, hey, stop doing your live streams. Your Twitch numbers don't matter. I don't know why they matter so much to BioWare. Must be a contract thing, but. I really think that's the only thing that it is. It's to keep Anthem up there in the Twitch numbers, which isn't working out for him. So just scrap it all together, learn from it, and move on. So Tater really asked, like, what would be the best way to do this? Because he's feeling like he is also not being heard, and then people have gone silent. Recently, AJ or Jesse has been talking about the patches that are coming up. They've said, hey, we're not going to talk about anything until we know more, which I completely understand that. But I think they need to start telling us, things that, don't really matter in the long run, but start telling us about characters from the lore, start bringing up, make conversation with your community. It doesn't have to be important conversation. It just needs to be conversation, right? Or am I just totally missing the boat? Would you guys rather them not say anything, or would you rather them actually have a presence on the internet somewhere, whether it's on, I don't know, match.com or something?
I don't know. It's tricky, right? I mean, if they're communicating with us, but it's just random things, then that can get old also. But like you said, people are going to be upset no matter what. But yeah, I mean, I would like, regular weekly communication, blog posts. I mean, I really love what, Bungie did for a long time. And then the same people that were doing that over there moved to 343 Industries. And they've had different people. They've had different community managers. I don't know the size of their community management team. But they put out weekly blog posts. And they have, at least at 343, because I follow them pretty closely, they have 4 to 5 people, and they just kind of volunteer each week. It's like, oh, who wants to take the blog post for next week? And then one of the community management team is like, oh, I'll do it this week. And I'm sure they have some kind of focus of what they're going to put it in there. But, so not the same person is working on it every single week, which can be difficult. I mean, I don't know what else they're all doing, but when you have multiple people working on it and people can, kind of leapfrog, do this week and have another 2 weeks to prepare for the next one, and so on and so forth. But I would really prefer just a weekly blog post where they could put stuff in there, and then if they want to show us new features from a patch, put it in a video and put it on there. Live streams are fun, but it's not really working to get the information out there, and It's just difficult watching them when they're. I mean, they're trying to improve. They're having people play off screen and have the people that are on there talking to us, But instead of playing, because that is difficult. But yeah, I would just prefer a Vidoc and a weekly blog post. So
JD, what are your preference? Like newsletter, like personalized emails to everyone?
I mean, I think they could continue with the streams, but definitely not in the way that they've been doing them. I think it needs to be a combination of all of what we've been saying. They need to have a stream. They need to have a some kind of blog post whenever they stream to sum up information that they gave during the stream, just to make things a little bit easier. I mean, if they want to do like a weekly blog, like 3 weeks a month, and then on the fourth week they do a stream, I feel like that's preferable. I do agree with Tater, especially because it kind of echoes some of the stuff that I was talking about last week, which is he says here, yeah, show us assets, code, show what the team has completed to a somewhat presentable state.
Your assets to yourself.
It's a family show, JD. Family show.
It says address feedback in a direct but open-ended way, and like I was saying last week, they did something similar to this when they were working on Dragon Age Inquisition before Dragon Age Inquisition was even called Dragon Age Inquisition. I think even like it ended up being called Dragon Age Armada first, and then it was something else eventually. Then they came into Inquisition, but that's beside the point. They were showing us things that they were working on, but they didn't give us any context. Like they would show us art of characters, but we had no idea who these characters were. They would show us, they would talk about certain details, but in the context of just basic conversation. We had no basis. Well, we had nothing to really base it off of. They weren't making promises. They were just showing us things it could be, and like just showing us things without saying like, this is something that's going to do this. This is something that's going to do that. It's like, no, like this is just something we're working on. You can see it. You can draw your own conclusions. You may not even end up seeing this exactly this way. Like just seeing that, and it made me as a fan feel like I was somewhat more involved in the process, even though like I wasn't saying anything to them. Okay. It's just that they were being so open about their side, and having that, like, again, no context, no promises, just show us that you are working, show us some of the things you are working on. You don't have to tell us what they are, just show us, let us draw our own conclusions, and we get what we get. It worked for Dragon Age, it could work for Anthem, but right now I think most of us can agree that the radio silence is not working out for them. It's like there's a lot of people that are spiraling out, and when they could be having reassuring words coming from the developers, they are getting nothing, or virtually nothing. I know Jesse's been busting it out on Twitter, but it's not being heard all around.
And it's a tough thing, but this is the one constant right now in the Anthem community, is that we feel like we're not being heard. So that's the one thing that people are going to continue to talk about until they feel like they're being heard, and we move on to the next thing, right? So I mean, you got to listen to what your people are telling you, because if you don't, then I don't know what the purpose is. All right, so we're going to do a couple things. We haven't done this before. We are going to start taking some calls from our Discord, where hopefully we've got this all set up to where it'll work out, where we can, if anyone has a question or a comment, they can ask about Anthem, or they can ask about anything else. The only thing you can't talk about is endgame spoilers, because we're not doing that yet. So you can jump into our Discord, over into our podcast called
It ends
Room.
the game.
Yeah, it does end.
No.
Stop it, Devon. So if you're ready, jump over there. And then we'll bring you in, and you can ask whatever question you want. Devon, will you post a link to our Discord in the YouTube channel thingy? And by the magic of the internet, we'll get people access to that. So while we're waiting for people to jump in and get ready for that, I wanted to talk about something that I've been trying this week. For the longest time, I've been running a very simple Destiny build. I had Artinia's Gambit. I rolled super high damage numbers on that thing. So I was melting everything with my Storm, just using my assault rifle. So I was just playing Destiny. I wasn't using any abilities. I was just mowing things down, critting for like 8,000 on just normal boss or on normal mobs. So I was unstoppable as a Storm. I got really tired of that. And I wanted to try something different. So I'm a huge fan of the Storm, so I'm going to stick with the Storm, but I also am a huge fan of Lightning. So I decided I'm going to try to do some Lightning build, right? So I got a Thunderbolt of Yavinia, which is a super cool gun. It has a very cool ability that 33% chance for it to proc a lightning strike on whatever you're shooting, which sometimes it feels like you get a run of this thing that every shot you're hitting is bringing down a lightning strike. And the lightning strike is super powerful, does a ton of damage, and I've stacked a ton of elemental damage on everything that I can find. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of legendaries that have that. So with all the things that I have with elemental damage, it just brings me down to a masterwork. But I've been running the Thunderbolt of Yavinia, Seal of the Open Mind, which is the upgraded shock burst. You throw a little lightning ball out there and it bounces around. And the nice thing about that is it's a primer. With that primer, I use the Ponder Infinity legendary. It's the legendary lightning strike. It's a detonator, so that does a ton of damage. Also, I've fallen into this bad habit of not using my abilities a lot just because I've been using the guns and they seem to do a lot of damage. So I'm trying to get back into priming things and actually detonating them. Unfortunately, when I use Seal of the Open Mind, it takes a lot of hits of that thing to actually prime a bigger creature. Like it'll prime smaller dudes on the first shot, but after you prime them, they're almost pretty much dead. So, and this is, I do mostly on Grandmaster 2, just because Grandmaster 3 currently with the Storm is too good, so I don't do it on Grandmaster 3. It dies a lot, which is really unfortunate. I wish I felt like the shield was actually making a difference in Grandmaster 3, but I don't know if it is or not. I'd have to do some testing. So priming things takes a little bit longer with the shock burst, but I really enjoy it because it's all a lightning build. So it's a lot of fun. The one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, hold on one second here. I got a message from Devon.
This is me.
Devon.
I was just telling everybody on the Discord.
Yeah, I was reading about the Thunderbolt of Yavinia, and this is the lore blurb on this thing, and I wanted to get your guys' opinions on the lore blurb on this. All right, it says, it was at Blackstone, on the edge of a battlefield, where Yavinia made the first Thunderbolt rifle. It is said that when Yavinia pulled it from the forge, a thunderbolt cracked in the sky, which is kind of cool, right? You're forging this thing, you're using a hammer. I don't know how they forge weapons because there's a lot of like strike pins and you've got recoil springs and all kinds of like pressure chambers that you got to build. So I don't know how you're doing that in the forge. But a warrior stepped forward and cried out, "This is Yavinia's thunderbolt." She then rushed forward and led a brilliantly reckless charge that turned the enemy on its heels. So I was reading this, I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. But does that mean Yavinia was like during a battle was just at the forge, like making a new gun? Because then as soon as she pulled it out of the forge, she went to fight with it. Like, was it hot at that time? Was she like, what was everyone else doing? Was it like waiting for her to finish building this gun? So I thought it was a pretty interesting lore blurb. I don't know if you guys have tried any of these weapons, if you tried the Storm at all, because I know, Devon, you run the Interceptor. JD, you're more focused on the Colossus and the Ranger right now. Have you guys been able to try the Storm out at all?
Some.
I was playing it earlier.
Go ahead, JD.
Like earlier today.
I'm going to cut you off because it looks like we've got someone in our call waiting. So I'm going to bring them in and we're going to see if this will work. This is friend of the show here. Let's see if this works out. Dialing now. We'll just have to remind this person to keep his language clean because sometimes he gets a little salty.
Well, he's all rusty.
Rusted, are you there?
He was, and then he left. Oh, he's still there.
Hey, Rusted, how are you? Welcome to episode 85 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Will you tell us your name, what javelin you use?
Rusted, there's only one javelin, and it's Ranger.
Fair enough. So, Rusted, what is
the expansion?
You didn't get the expansion pack for the other javelins. So, what question do you have for us, Rusted?
as you're very much a lore kind of person yourself, why don't you put forward some lore-related, what would you call it, fan fiction or something like that?
Fan fiction? Are you like written fan fiction kind of thing, or just content that covers the lore?
Content. Let's start with content.
Um,
I think.
uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I have an honest answer for you, and this is something that when we were first starting, I was really excited about it. Like even before the game came out, I dove deep into talking about like Helena of Tarsus, what she did, the speculation around her. But when the game released, I kind of like lost the drive to do that. I think there's some really cool lore in Anthem. I think everything surrounding Helena is super cool and very interesting, but everything else, like it hasn't grabbed me like I thought it would. And it's really hard for me to like want to dive in and talk about it. Like the comics kind of fell super flat for me. I was like really excited to talk about them, but then after reading everything, I'm like, I mean, it feels like it's there to being something super cool. And I don't, I think it's a me issue, but I haven't felt the desire to
It's
dive in
true.
as much as I
It's always
thought
a
I
Steven
would.
issue.
If I could say something to this, I don't know if this applies to what Rusted is asking necessarily, but I do know that that one of the things that I've been thinking about doing, I'm just waiting for school to end for me to have more time. I've talked to both Ash and Will about it. I haven't really talked to the other guys about this too much because I wanted to come to them with the script, but I do know I've had a plan for a little while to make a couple of like basically fan make a couple of additional episodes of the radio play. The radio plays in Fort Tarsus because that's pretty easy to do. It's all audio. I have sound engineering friends. I have plenty of friends who are still in the voiceover industry. I'm trained myself, not to mention Ash is trained. We all know Will has plenty of experience. Nobody's officially agreed to it, and there's no definitive plans made, but that's something that I would like to personally do because I loved I love the radio plays that they did. I loved how funny they were and how much they added to the world, just in terms of like its overall character.
There you go.
That sounds like a fan idea.
Devin, do you want to answer, or do I don't really care about?
Yeah, no, it's lore is good, but I don't know. I mean, they need to expand it some more. There's a ton of it in the game that you can go read through, but that's not really my thing unless it's Halo lore because I'm more interested in that.
Well, I think a lot of the lore in Anthem, there's a lot of like day-to-day stuff
Yeah.
in the Cortex. A lot of it is people that are existing right now, when everything is happening, talking about, manifests for a Strider that's walking around, people's laundry and stuff. And I think all of that is really interesting. But there's not a lot of, I mean, we kind of want to know like what the Shapers were doing, things that were built. And I think I just need to spend more time in it. I need to get over the lack of desire to do it, and I just need to do it. So
There's also not like a lot of mystery going on there either. Like usually there's like things that you could like make theories based off of, and like kind of sink your teeth into. Right now we have a lot of questions, but not really enough evidence out there to really support any theory as particularly viable. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like we saw the Urgoth, and it's like we have no idea what the Urgoth are. Like we're left with the question.
Spoiler alert, JD. That's good.
Well, I think one of the problems is like the Anthem of Creation can do anything. So
Yeah.
if it can do anything, then I guess it can just do anything. So, Rusted, we appreciate the call. We're going to bring Volkai in on here. So I'm going to hang up on you. Hey, and you know what? Appreciate the support, Rusted, and everything that you've done for the podcast. I mean, you've been here for as long as I can remember, and we appreciate the support a ton. So, and thanks for using all those Matt Damon keys for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
All right. We'll say bye to Rusted, and we're going to bring Volkai in here. So let's see if we can do this. Volkai is one of our patron members. Let's see. Did that work? Leave call. Turn on camera. We'll see if they pick up. You guys can save me some dead air while I figure this out. You guys can talk
Wait,
about.
so he's one of our patrons. So basically, we're about to have a meeting with one of our bosses.
Yeah, our boss is coming on, and that's
Oh boy,
never a good idea. All right.
oh man, I forgot to keep my beard trim within 2 inches. That's oh boy, that's oh
I'm
no.
with that with you, JD.
I gotta hide all my tattoos.
So, JD, have you seen the new content that came out today in the store?
For the
Yep.
the cosmetic store. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
saw it.
So I purchase everything like I always do. Which is it's whatever. I was thinking, right? So people are saying because the wrap, what are the large wraps called?
Wraps.
I think they're just called wraps.
Okay. Well, so they're the same price as the armor, right? So 8,500. And like I was kind of thinking about that.
850.
850. Okay.
900.
Can I go for 1,000?
More.
No, they're 850.
1,000 coins, 850 shards.
Right. So, but I was thinking, right? So the armor packs, they're really just another type of wrap, right? Because all the armor packs is just additional components on the outside of your javelin, right? So the inside of your main javelin never changes. The only thing that changes is what the wrap on the outside is, right? So people were like, well, I don't want to pay the same price for armor pack versus the wrap, but really they're both kind of just wraps. They just, one's more 3D than the other. And
Are you there?
I sure am.
oh,
Sorry,
there
I
it
was
is.
calling you, but I should have just jumped into here. JD pointed out that this is almost like a meeting with our boss since you're one of our patron members. So, how's it going, boss?
Episode 85, the performance review.
Well, my current review doesn't stop.
Well, that's more than I appreciate that. So how's it going, Volkai? So can you tell us what your main javelin is? What you've been playing the most of?
Despite my original expectations that I'd get bored of it pretty quickly.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Oh, so you have been playing the Ranger the most?
Sure have.
So what is it about the Ranger that like keeps you playing it? Because I really want to jump to the Ranger, but I've just kind of been stuck on the Storm. I think that's the next thing I'm going to go to. So what is it about the Ranger that keeps you playing it?
A lot of it is just the flexibility. I have area of effect. I have focused damage. My combo is perfect for bosses because it does massive damage. Using the shield option for the support gear lets me revive people without dying in the process.
And that has been something that Mike has saved me a bunch of times from, dying just after I respawn when we do Grandmaster 3's that shield. So I appreciate the shield. I appreciate all Ranger mains out there that actually pop their shield when they go to revive me. Not that I die a lot, but I do appreciate it. Also, the Ranger, hands down has the coolest looking ultimate ability. Like just opening up with all those missiles is pretty rad. Dropping meteors is cool about one time, but after that, it kind of it's the same. So Volkai,
Also, the missiles.
No, you go. You're our boss, so you go.
Also, the missiles are both useful against crowds or focused on a single target.
Yeah, and that's true. Like a lot of times, if you're lucky with the Storm ultimate, you can get people underneath that AOE. But a lot of times they're so spread out that you never get as many people as you want. And with the Ranger, you can just target as many. So what question do you have for us today, Volkai?
Well, the main question I have is, how do you play the game as far as time windows? Like, I'm usually playing 1 to 2 hours, sometimes 4, but beyond that, it feels like I'm getting diminishing returns.
Oh, so this is a good question. So, Devon, what is your play schedule like? Because you have quite a bit more play time than I do.
Yeah, so for me, like right now, within the last, I don't know, I'd say month, before it was like I was playing 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours every day, and now it's more of a I'll play 1 to 2 hours basically of like because there's not really much new for me to do. Right, I'm still working towards the long term challenges and what have you, but sometimes when those things aren't working correctly, it's a little tough to keep working on it because nothing's counting. But now it's more of a especially with the Matt Damon chest, the Elysian chest, it was like, okay, I'll play, I'll get the key, and then I'll wait to play again later when I know there's gonna be more of us on, so we can run the stronghold together and use the key. So I think my playtime was more based around the activities that I was gonna do, because I wanted to get maximum Matt Damon chest. Bonuses. I waited for more people that I could play with because then I would know they had a key. So that right now it's up in the air. Like all last week I was out of town, so I didn't play much. And this week I just been really busy and I haven't really played much until today. So I'm looking forward to when they can introduce some more activities, which will bring me back to playing more of Anthem.
JD, what is your play schedule like? Because we never play together because you're on Xbox and we're on
Until
we're
we
on
got
the
crossplay, right?
master race. Until we
Yep.
get cross, that ever happens. So what is your schedule
Sony.
like?
Yeah, you guys are in New Mexico. I'm in California. You guys are in PC. I'm on Xbox. Would never be together. No, so most of the time, like if it's like a Saturday or Sunday, like I'm a teacher. I'm like I wake up at
Oh,
like
really?
5.
You're a teacher?
Yeah,
Oh, that you
no,
do-
I wake up at I wake up at about 5:30 in the morning. Leave at about 7:30, and then I get home at about 4
Sleeping
o'clock.
in over there, JD.
And then depending on what I got to do that day, I maybe have an hour or two of video games a night. The only day that I really like sit down and binge is usually on a Saturday. Sunday is currently reserved for Game of Thrones with the family.
Well, that'll be over soon.
I know, but usually what I was doing, especially during the Elysian chess, is I was popping on, I was getting the key, and then I was running the stronghold. So about 1 to 2 hours of activity. I tried playing it earlier today. I wanted to get my Storm back in action. I tried to run the Sunken Cell. I had a bunch of server issues when I was playing, so I didn't end up getting anything of note. I remember like when I was hunting for my legendaries as much as I could, and I got a couple. That was basically from like um, that was the result of like 5 or 6 hours of playing, and I think I only got like maybe like somewhere between 2 and 4 legendaries that day. But I it actually kind of led me to believe that like your chances of getting legendaries might actually go up with your amount of continued play, because I've only gotten legendaries on Saturdays when I just had a lot of time to play continuously without stopping. It's become my game that I will pop on in between, like if I'm getting bored of something. So like let's say I was playing Yakuza 2 Kiwami on the PS4. I got tired of that after playing that for a couple of hours, so I hopped on Anthem, played that for an hour, and then once I got tired of that, I hopped back on Yakuza. It was a little palate cleanser.
Very cool. So my time, I play at a very specific time. I play at 4 o'clock in the morning until 5:30, and then I go to work. Usually after I work pretty late. So when I get home, my wife and I hang out, watch TV and movies. That's kind of what we do together, and then I just play in the morning. So that is my time. And like Devin said, like even though the Matt Damon chests were not were not greatly implemented, I think that's a word that I can use.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
gave you something to chase, unfortunately, because there was a little bright icon that was different from everything else. And for us gamers, if there's something that's shiny, that's what we go for. So even though it wasn't like the best use of my time, I could have been trying to work on my other quests, like killing Dominion or killing Scar or killing the Outlaws or whatever, that's the one thing that I would get. I'd go get a key, and then I felt like I was being productive because I was checking a box off of my list. So that's what I was doing while I was playing. Now I don't know what to do. Now I just feel lost. I don't know, Volkai, if that even answers the question that you were asking. But that's kind of, those are the times when I...
Pretty well does. I have one follow-up question for you guys.
Okay.
All right, hit us with it.
What do you think BioWare developers intended the average game session time compared to what we're playing?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And one more side question. How much do you want to bet all the people who complained about running out of stuff to do a month and a half ago were playing, say, 8 hours at a time?
Yeah, I think this one's hard because I try not to make blanket statements like JD loves to make all the time. But I'm going to say
so many blankets.
Yeah, I'm going to say a probably pretty good percentage of people that run out of things to do are people that burn through content, right? So I mean, and that's a given. If you're not burning through the content, because we see a lot of people that don't. I mean, I don't play as much as any of my co-hosts. I play less than anyone has on the show. I don't feel like I've burned through everything because I still have quite a few things to check off on my list. But you know, even when we first got the game came out, I mean, we played, you know, almost a full day nonstop, right, Devon? I mean, we burned through.
We
that
did,
thing
and we melted Steven's GPU. It was a good time.
like Anthem melted a brand new GPU. It was great, but I never felt like, you know what? Okay, I have no more content. You know, where's there more? And that's just me because I like to think of myself as a rational person. Because a lot of times people that complain that there's not a lot to do, I don't know what they're expecting in a looter type game. There's obviously things that Anthem needs to work on. So maybe they're just coming from the aspect of, well, I can already see where this is going and there's not a lot to do, which is a little disingenuous to me. But I don't know. That's really hard. In regards to how long I think they want people to play, I would say if I was making a game and I wanted people to play it, it's like, how many hours do I want them to play my game a day? I don't know. That's a hard question. Like, I don't know, maybe 2 hours on your average.
I would say
time?
1 to 2. Yeah, long enough time to complete the daily objectives and some time to do a few things. I mean, it's not rational to think that every player base or everyone in your play base is going to play for 3-4 hours. Maybe once a week, you know, on weekends when they have more time. But I'm guessing as a live service, they want them to play at least 1 to 2 hours a day. That's my thoughts.
Those are my thoughts. Okay, we appreciate the call. We appreciate all the support for the podcast and being in our Discord all the time, keeping that conversation going. We really do appreciate it. So we will have to do more of these call-ins so that you can call in and chat with us.
Absolutely.
All right, we will catch you later. Thanks, Wokai. All right. So we will wait for someone to come in unless you guys have any follow-ups. We've been talking for about an hour. So I think if no one else wants to jump in here, we will probably end it. What do you guys say? You guys good with that? We're good with that? I'm good with that.
I mean,
we appreciate
I
it.
just want to say thank you to everybody who came on. Like, it's
It's
nice
fun
to hear from you guys, putting voices to names.
Maybe next week we can do EA Play predictions. Maybe, I don't know.
Ooh.
EA Play predictions. We still have predictions from last year. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to shoot a message to someone real quick and see if they respond before I do that. So you guys are going to have to fill some air for me while I type this out.
Yeah. All right, so back to before I was interrupted by Steven last time about my philosophy lesson. No, as William said in there, what's in a wrap, right? Because the armor packs, really, that's all they are. I mean, they've shown us, okay, you have your Storm or Colossus, Ranger, Interceptor. What's underneath is the same frame. They just change the bits, the armor bits packs or whatever on the outside, right? And to me, that's still just a wrap. It just makes it look a little bit differently. They're not full like armor sets where, like, armor sets I look at as like completely different, like because they're saying it just goes on top of the original frame. So I don't have a problem paying the price as long as they're cool. I mean,
Price
yeah,
or the wrap price?
the price for both of them. I don't mind that they're both the same price. Because to me, I look at them as both the same thing. That's the way I look at them. To me, it's not like a DLC where I'm downloading new models. I mean, it is. Yes, the armor pack has new 3D geometry, but it is like in one sense just another wrap on the outside of the main frame of that javelin. But what I was originally getting to.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you, Devin.
Okay, I
Hey,
knew it.
we have a caller on the line. Caller, can you hear us? Caller.
There was
Maybe.
something fell.
That was my dog pushing back.
Oh,
Well, let's see if they connect right here. So you finish your thought, Devin, and we'll
Okay.
see if we can get this call to
Uh,
connect. Whoa,
oh.
there it is. Ben, can you hear us?
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Hey, we're doing good, Ben. How are you? It's probably
Hey.
pretty cool where you're at right now.
Yeah, it's 11 p.m., but it's all good. I
You're-
realize I have my push to talk on. So
Ah, gotcha. So how are you doing tonight, Ben?
yeah, I'm good. How's the podcast going?
Oh, it's going great. So we've had a couple callers on. We always ask our callers, tell us your name and what javelin you're main at the time. So can you tell us who you are and what javelin you're using?
Sure. My name is Ben Irving. I love playing Anthem. I have
Yeah.
a two mains right now. I'm playing the Range and Interceptor. I obviously have no favorite child, so I play all of them. But right now, I play Ranger and the Interceptor.
So what about the Ranger is drawing you to it right now? Because I mean, obviously you have a favorite. I know you can't say you have a favorite, but you obviously do. So what about the Ranger is keeping you there?
I feel like I'm being baited here.
No, like multiple callers have said the Ranger is their javelin, so it's interesting.
Yeah, look, again, I have no favorite.
You don't have to answer.
Really?
You don't have to answer.
Honestly, it's the combo. So I play with the missile masterwork that resets on combo, and for me, that's very satisfying. I play with a couple buddies who are big on priming, so they prime and I get my double detonator off, or where they fail at their job of priming, I love to use my melee into combo. So that's why I love playing Ranger right now. But again, I play them all. It's just that's what I've been playing recently.
Well, very cool. Ben, we appreciate the call. I know you are super busy. It's late. You probably want to go to bed. We appreciate the call in. Unless you have a question for the podcast, a lot of people have been asking the podcast question. If you have a question, you can feel free to answer it here. Or
Any
if not,
question.
we can actually let you go to bed.
You know what? I just really wanted to pop in and say hi. You guys have been doing so many great podcasts for so long. I just wanted to stop by and say hi and say thank you so much for doing that. I don't think I really have a question for you all outside of really just saying thank you. We really appreciate the ongoing work you all do, and we look forward to chatting with you all in the future as well.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we appreciate that, Ben. We look forward to talking to you guys also. Hopefully, we'll see you at EA Play. We'll all be headed down there to hang out and see what you guys have cooked up for us. Are you making that trip to EA Play this year?
I will be there. Yep, for sure. So if you guys are there, look forward to seeing you.
Drinks on you? Is that what I heard you just say?
All the drinks on me.
All right.
I'll have to dodge you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ruined it. Hey,
Drinks are on us, right? Drinks are on us.
Oh yeah.
oh,
I
we
just
appreciate
had my corporate Amex canceled.
I see what you did there. Well,
It'll be fun to see you all, and again, thank you for doing all the stuff that you do for the community, and we look forward to hanging out with you.
all right, we'll talk. Hopefully, we'll talk to you soon, Ben. You have a good night.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
guys
Ben.
too.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll just hang up on Ben. So.
The lead on
Well,
Anthem. I'll just hang up on him.
Drinks were free until Steve hung up.
Yeah,
hung up.
tell Steve. Honestly.
It tells, yeah, I know. I ruin everything. Hold on.
Water's
Windows
always
is
free, right?
trying to update on me. I have to figure out what button to push so it does not do an update. Restart now. Another timer. Okay. See, this is all just like really confusing. What button do I push? Hopefully, I don't push now. Oh,
If Steve disappears, we know what happened.
Freelancers, it's been an awesome time chatting with you for episode 85 of the Freelancer Codex podcast. We appreciate everyone jumping in. This was the first time we tried that, so we're going to try to do it in the future a couple more times so people can come in, have questions, and feel like they're being part of the conversation. We appreciate everyone that was in there for on our YouTube chat. We really appreciate the conversation going. Again, I can't express enough like how much we appreciate all of our listeners, everyone that has stuck with us, the conversations that we have. A lot of times there's some pretty good discussion going on in our Discord. So if you want to join a Discord of people that are passionate about the game, if you're tired of feeling like everyone is just bashing on the game and trashing on it, I mean, there's a lot of good Discords you can go to for that. Ours is one of them, I feel like it is. We've got a lot of great moderators that keep the conversation going. We've got people in the morning, people at night. Someone's always on here. So
All around the world.
all around the world, we got people. So until next time, freelancers, there's a shaper storm on the horizon, and we'll see you on the other side.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Steven Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.